Hi, everybody. It's been a second. I'm so happy to be back with you. There are so many books to talk about um, in this next kind of session moving forward with Talking Books with Tanisha. So let me just welcome you. Thanks for tuning in today and joining me to talk about books. Um, Make sure you like and subscribe and share what you are hearing and seeing on a mission to get as many books in the hands of people and as many stories in the hands of people as possible. My name is Tanisha, and I'm here, the hostess of Talking Books with Tanisha. It's been a second, and I know that people have been asking me, like, when's your next video coming out? And sometimes, like, there's books that you kind of get caught up in, and it takes you a second to read them. But also, I like to accumulate the stories that I'm reading and kind of like have a bunch of things to share. So this is kind of launching into our almost summer season, not quite summer season. So I'll do a traditional summer dump again to kind of give you books to think about for the summer fun. But let me tell you what I've been reading right now. I just finished reading a couple weeks ago. Right behind me, many of you who are Hunger Games fans already recognize it, already know Sunrise on the Reaping. This is a book that I was not even following, that Suzanne Collins was writing another book. And having like just read and watched the last one, it's just a really interesting kind of like story to like recognize, what's been happening along like the Hunger Games kind of like saga. So I've been a Hunger Games fan since I was teaching sixth grade, and my students brought this into the classroom, and I started reading it as well. And we did like projects around it. It's one of those really great books that kind of helps you think about like access to like different resources, what the people have to endure as they're living in these different places, how they're acculturated to their climate and to their community, and how each district has a different like thing that's significant to who they are. And a lot of the books that we are reading in Hunger Games are really based in District 12, because that is where Everdeen is living, and that's like her story. But we have a chance to meet lots of different characters in lots of different districts. Um, so there is like this kind of like little bit like a journey kind of where we are having a chance like to be introduced to, like the actual Hunger Games saga, which is Hunger Games, which is also Catching Fire and then Mockingjay. And then we have a chance to go into the ballad. And that's like when we have a chance to like look at the snakes and the songbirds. And that's the one that goes into what happens like way in the past. Like as they first were kind of starting Hunger Games and like what that story was in the story of Snow. So the president of the Capitol. And we are introduced to him in Hunger Games because like he's a pretty evil character that is like torturing both Peeta and Katniss in the Hunger Games saga. But then we have a chance to hear his story and learn more about him in the ballad story. And so in that one, we have a chance to kind of hear his story, like where he's starting from. Things were not always easy for him, but we want to not necessarily gain sympathy towards this character, but we want to understand kind of where he's coming from. They did a really good job of doing that in the ballad book. But there's more to that story because one of the things I think many of us who are really like strong Hunger Game fans have been really curious about for a long time is what is Haymitch's story? Haymitch becomes the mentor of Katniss and Peeta when they are tributes for the Hunger Games in the first three books. And he's a really interesting character because he has like this kind of mystery around him. Like we know him as like the town drunk, like he doesn't really seem to care very much. He could give like, he could really care less about the fact that he's a mentor to these two people who are really relying on him. And they end up pulling something out of him that I think has not been pulled out of him in a really long time. Like the fact that he actually starts caring about who these kids are, the fact that he's willing to like risk things around like, helping them escape or, be able to like kind of achieve the Hunger Games. The fact that he like, cannot stop drinking, like he really seems to be lost in white liquor, as I describe it in this book. And there's more to like his story. He seems to know people, especially if you're reading like the second one, Catching Fire. I don't think I'm doing any spoilers, but like there's a second version of what's happening. I think these tributes go back into the Hunger Games, and they bring in lots of different tributes who've already won. So all the victors are brought back into the Hunger Games in the book Catching Fire. And we recognize and start thinking about the fact that Haymitch seems to have like some connection, or at least like some knowledge about some of these people that are being brought back. Well, Sunrise on the Reaping really goes deeper into his story, and we start making connections between who he knows, who's in his circle, who these people are. And if you're following the Easter eggs pretty carefully, you can start seeing the connections for yourself. You can start seeing and recognizing the characters that we meet in the Hunger Games and Catching Fire and Mockingjay. We start seeing them pop up in this book, Sunrise on the Reaping. We also have a chance to really understand who Haymitch is before trauma and loss have affected him. And we understand the kind of the connection he has around this kind of alcoholism that shows up and is really pertinent and like kind of like so like relevant within the rest of the stories. And we also realize how evil the Capitol is. And I can say that because I think, Suzanne Collins talks about, this is a book that's like unapologetic. We already know the story of the Capitol. We already know like who these people are. We already know how they feel about the Hunger Games. So there won't be any surprises there. What will be surprising is how you fall in love with Haymitch. Because I think people are not expecting to do that. And I did. Like, I really started understanding who he was as a person. I really appreciated him. I understood him more now in connection with his relationship with Katniss specifically, but also with like PETA and also some of the victors from previous Hunger Games. This is a book that if those of you who are Hunger Game fans, you're going to want to read it. It lives right between the three books that originally came out and between Ballad. And so it's like right in the middle of that, a little bit of like reaching towards the past and then reaching towards the future. And right in the middle of that is this beautiful book. It is a beautiful cover, it is a beautiful story, it is really well written. It's not a book that I think you can assume you know where it's going to go because I think you won't. And I also think that you're going to want to care more than you probably think you are. I'm resisting to going back and reading all the books again because that's really how good it was. It makes you want to go back and start all over again. But it gives you enough to remember, oh yeah, this is why the Hunger Games was so popular. And not only that, this is why the Hunger Games matters. There's some things in here that are pretty relevant to what's happening right now in our country and in our world. So I hope we can all kind of learn lessons from this. But most of all, read it. Just find another excuse to find another book. Get it from your library, borrow it from a friend, pass it on to a friend when you finish with it. I'm just so happy this is one of the first books I'm bringing back to talk with you all about. I hope you enjoy as much as I do. What books are you reading right now? I want to know what's happening next for you. The book I am like reading right now, next, I'll show you. I'm glad it's like really close by. This is the book I'm also reading. This is my current book right now. So I'll be talking about this also in one of the upcoming tapings. But How Lucky, which is a really great story about it. Well, you know what? I'm going to save that one because that's not what we're talking about today. So today, go ahead and choose this book off the shelf. Thanks so much for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and share. I appreciate you all. Thank you. And have a beautiful day. And don't forget, keep reading.